So let's talk about. I like to try to keep this podcast, Hawaii focused with a Hawaii
Okay.
flavor to it. So looking at estate tax, and so the big beautiful bill did it extended the federal estate tax rate. I think it increased it to 15 million in 2026. There was thoughts that it might drop back down to the pre-Tax
Yeah.
Cuts and Jobs Act. So that extended. But on the state level, I thought it would be interesting to talk about and hear your thoughts on state tax. Again, because we focus on federal income tax and federal taxes because that's the brunt of everything. But
Yeah.
it's interesting talking about things at the state level. And I guess for the listeners, there's three terms, I guess, that I want to kind of discuss. And one is estate tax, otherwise known as death tax, which is kind of a morbid way to say it. I like estate tax. I don't know. But then for your state, in New Jersey, you have the inheritance tax, right, which is different than the estate tax.
Yeah.
And then which isn't really estate driven, but there's gift tax, right? So I kind of lump that into the estate planning a realm there.
Sure.
So Hawaii has a flat estate tax, whereas New Jersey has the inheritance tax.
Yeah.
And the distinction there is one is tax to the estate, and the other is tax to the inheritor, right? The person receiving. So, and then the gift tax. Hawaii doesn't have a gift tax.
Okay.
And some states do, but it's kind of interesting how there's definitely some planning around estate tax that can be done in addition to the federal, and the limits, like the state tax, the Hawaii estate tax exemption is 5.5 million, right? So for a couple, you're still at whatever that is, 11 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a lower threshold. It can sneak up on people if you're in this, in this bracket where you're over that 5 million, and there are estate tax considerations and planning. Yeah, it's just interesting. What are your thoughts on? Do you ever come across? I mean, I'm sure it's not too common, but situations where you're planning for reducing estate taxes.
Yeah. So I like the overarching thought here that most of us consumers and advisors alike focus on the federal tax implications, be it income tax or, in the case of death taxes, estate and or inheritance tax. So federally, there's no inheritance tax. There is an estate tax over, like you said, $15 million per person starting next year. But we often relegate it to like an afterthought of like the state level income taxes, or in this case, death taxes of the estate tax for Hawaii. Mm-hmm. So it definitely needs to be taken into consideration. Now, only some states have an estate and or inheritance tax, like you said. I think Maryland actually has both, so not cool for people in Maryland, estate and inheritance. And like Oregon, I think is the most punitive. I want to say it's $1 million is the max estate size, or maybe it's going up to $2 million, but it's like jokingly low. So realistically, vast majority of people won't have to worry about federal estate tax issues, but state level, depending on your state, very much could be an issue. Like Hawaii, it's probably not that difficult to exceed $5.5 million,
right? Especially
if you own a house, with a lot of equity, and you have a few $1 million of investable assets. So what do you do about that? I guess like anything, there's a few considerations. One, do you care? Like if you're single, you have no heirs, you don't have any particularly strong desires to leave money to charity or maximize what you leave to charity. It's like, oh, good. If I die with more money than I need, like good for me, whatever. Mm-hmm. But for other people who do care about maximizing what they leave to spouses, to children, to friends, to charities, then it starts to matter more. So someone in Hawaii, if you're bumping around $5 million of estate value now, what should you consider? I guess like anything, even at the federal level, same sort of general considerations is gifting.
Right.
Like if you know you're going to die with more money than you need and it's going to go to your kids, let's say, well, start gifting it to them now.
Right.
In life. Now, I don't know about Hawaii, like federal, there's a $19,000 per recipient gift exclusion where you can give money to whoever in that amount and there's no reporting, no taxes, no nothing. Does Hawaii have something similar, or they just kind of follow federal rules?
Yeah, so Hawaii does not have a state gift tax.
Okay.
So
Got it. So
it's
there's
just
no
the
exclusion
federal.
concept
Yeah.
then. Yeah.
No, yeah. So that is a great approach. Is I'm sure there's a lot of people who plan this inheritance, and if you're flirting with these thresholds, yeah, why not? I mean, even if you're not, there's no harm in starting to gift things while you're living and stay below the
Right. Yeah.
that amount, right?
Exactly. Now you don't want to run yourself too short and run out of money before you die, but if you have over $5 million and you probably know, especially when you're in or near retirement, whether or not you're going to need all that, then yeah, start slowly gifting it, getting it out of your name, out of your estate while you're alive. So that not only helps keep the estate size below the threshold, but also helps the recipient of the gifts, right? Like oftentimes, I don't know if you've read the Die with Zero book or familiar with the concept,
Right.
but people who die with a lot of money end up taking it to the grave, leaving it to their kids or whomever. Their kids, by the time they get the money, are often then well on into adulthood, maybe established themselves and doing okay. Sure, they'll appreciate the money, but they may not need it at that point in life when they're 50, 60, 70. Versus if you could have gifted that away, or at least some of it, when you were younger, before you died, when your kid was only 25, 30, 40, whatever, they could have much more needed the money then, raising a family, buying a house, saving for college, as opposed to waiting till they're already established and set type thing. So there are a lot of benefits to gifting during life, not just for the gift giver, but also the recipient. So that's definitely one thing to consider. Charities, obviously, same thing. If you're charitably inclined, get ahead of that to the extent you're comfortable doing so. Those are probably the biggies, but don't sleep on life insurance, permanent life insurance. As much as people want to think I dislike permanent life insurance, I don't. I dislike the way it's often sold.
Right.
For people of higher net worths, where estate size is a serious consideration for them, permanent life insurance could be a fantastic, efficient, tax-effective way to maximize the amount of net of tax wealth you leave to your next generation. And I don't know if you want to get into details for that or save that for another discussion, but that is another consideration for people where they're already at or near the estate size.
Yeah, no, sure. That's a great point. We can dive in a little bit to that using life insurance as a vehicle for inheritance,
Yeah.
as opposed to passing away and just having your assets, your retirement accounts pass through as, beneficiaries or pass through a trust. Some things that jump out right there is just, yeah, like you said, it gets the money out of the estate,
Yeah.
right? And then also it's tax free for the inheritor, right?
Yeah. And so there's one sort of wrinkle there. So super high level, generally speaking, anytime someone dies and they have life insurance, and that life insurance pays out the stated death benefit to the named beneficiaries, the amount of that death benefit completely tax-free
Right.
to the beneficiaries, whether it's $500,000, $1 million, five, like whatever. It's just tax-free cash dumped in their lap upon the passing of the insured person. So yeah, that's all true. But if you own a life insurance policy and you own it in your name individually and you die, so let's assume I have a $1 million term life policy,
Right.
and it's in my name, I own it, I die, the $1 million gets left to my wife. If I die today, that $1 million death benefit is included in my estate.
Right.
So if I'm at or near the estate size limit, like that's a problem, I don't want that. The way around that is to open what's called an irrevocable life insurance trust. Sounds funky and fancy, it's actually not that complicated. But basically, you would have to legally create this trust, a separate and distinct trust. The trust is the owner of the life insurance policy. I'm still the insured, like I'm the trigger. When I die, that life insurance policy pays out, but the trust, not me, owns that policy. Therefore, when I die, that policy pays its $1 million death benefit. That $1 million is an asset of the trust.
Right.
It's not an asset in my estate. So this now is where the sort of tax magic with tax efficient wealth transfer comes into play. That's just a super basic example. Let's say I live in Hawaii and I have $6 million to my name currently across bank accounts, investment accounts, whatever. So I'm already over, and I'm single, so there's no spouse, let's assume. I'm already over the estate tax exemption. And I want to make sure as much as possible goes to my kids when I die. I don't want them to have, my estate to have to pay tax. What I can do is I can buy a permanent life insurance policy, meaning it lasts as long as I do, as long as I keep paying the premiums. And let's just assume, to make the math really egregious, that it's a $2 million death benefit, and it's going to cost me $2 million in premiums to pay it. Right. So I'm basically fully paying for it.
Right.
Now, most advisors are going to be like, that's a sucker bet. Why would you pay $2 million in premiums to only get $2 million back? You could have did better just investing in stocks or whatever. But the tax angles are what you have to consider.
Right.
I open this life insurance trust that buys this policy. I pay the $2 million premiums. That $2 million comes out of my estate. Whereas I had $6 million of assets before, I'm at $4 million now because I used $2 million to pay these premiums, right?
Right.
My estate now is $4 million under the exemption, under the 5.5 limit. When I die, my $2 million death benefit gets paid out in the name of the trust, not included in my estate. That trust passes that $2 million through to my heirs. It's tax-free to them just the same as any other life insurance payout would be. So just like that, my heirs now inherit the $4 million that remained in my estate.
Right.
And that's below the estate tax exemption limit. And they get this $2 million tax-free payout from the life insurance policy that, again, was outside my estate, so not subject to estate taxes. So they get my full $6 million upon passing.
Right.
If I didn't buy insurance, they'd still get $6 million. But now there's going to be whatever it is, 10, 20% estate tax on that, $500,000 that's over the 5.5 limit.
Right. Yeah,
So
great
super
point.
example, but yeah, basic example. But I think that paints the picture for people with a lot of net worth where estate size matters. Like, you have to consider insurance.
Sure. Yeah, ILITs as they're referred to, right? And then
ILIT, exactly. Yeah.
and then and it's I'm always fascinated. Like, it doesn't really apply to me, and I can only devote so much of my bandwidth to so much things. But I'm fascinated by, once you get up to really the ultra high net worth, the grits, the grats, the gruts, and the grant to retain annuity trust. And there really is a lot of interesting ways for those people to kind of navigate trust and taxes.
There really is. And it makes the complexity of the planning that much harder. And so that's why, like in my firm, at least, we stay away from that. I realize that's a whole other area of knowledge and expertise that I don't have.
Sure.
So just by simply not working with folks in those scenarios, you don't have to worry about that coming up and be like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to be able to serve you well. Sorry."
Yeah.
So,
At that point, it gets almost more of a legal issue than a financial planning issue when you start, getting to that point.
a lot of legal and trust work, definitely.
Oh yeah. One last point on the estate taxes before we move on is I think it's, again, the planning is minimal for most people, unless you're going to hit those thresholds. But it can come out of nowhere. For instance, like the inheritance tax for New Jersey, that's not going to be subject to this threshold the way an estate tax would. And so let's say I'm living here in Hawaii, but let's say my parents pass away in New Jersey, and then I'm set to inherit a sum of money. It can catch people off guard knowing that. And same thing if you had, let's say you yourself, Andy, you had a massive property here in Hawaii, but you pass away in New Jersey. Hawaii estate tax can actually come in and play into your picture as well. So there's the crossover, right?
Yeah, state taxes are a lot more planning and work. Even like doing tax returns, federal is what it is, regardless of where you live. It's the same stuff. It's the state nuances that can trip you up if you're not already intimately familiar with them. But yes, this first scenario you painted, that's definitely accurate. You live in Hawaii, your parents live in New Jersey, they pass. Inheritance tax will apply. Now, because you're a direct lineal descendant, you're exempt. Right. But if you were not a child of the deceased, if you were just a friend or a cousin or a nephew, there would be an inheritance tax, and it goes up to 16%. So like you touched on before, an estate tax is simply a tax levied on the size of your total estate relative to some threshold. An inheritance tax isn't specific to the size of the estate. It's in particular who is the one that inherits those assets and their relationship to you. Like I said, New Jersey, it exempts direct lineal descendants, but anyone else, there can be some element of inheritance tax applied on it. So you may not know that, your parents pass, leave you $1 million, like, oh, cool. But there's going to be well, again, not in your case, but if you were a cousin, let's say,
Right.
or a nephew, there's going to be, whatever, 12, 16%. I don't remember what it is.
Right. Yeah, interesting stuff. I like nerding out and just looking at how different states run their tax, structure is pretty interesting because there's
Yeah.
a lot of variability there, like really quite a bit.
There really is, which makes it hard. Even people who own property in different states, like it's very common here. People who live in New York, New Jersey, own a second home down in Florida, or somewhere warmer that's also an income tax-free state. But that can now complicate things when you die, where the asset is, where probate goes through. This starts to get more complex, where then you want to start consider having a trust, even just a vanilla living revocable trust, if you have assets in different states, so you don't get snarled in multiple state probate processes.
The opinions and statements presented on this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Never make any investment or financial decisions based on information offered on this show without first consulting your financial, legal, or tax advisor. All economic and performance information mentioned on the show is historical in nature and is not indicative of any future results. All indices mentioned on this show are unmanaged and cannot be invested in directly. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Lastly, all opinions expressed by Jason Cutitta and any guests on the show are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of or are endorsed by ToBA Financial. For Jason Cutitta, investment advisory services are offered through ToBA Financial LLC, a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Hawaii and in other jurisdictions where exempt from registration.